Okay, well, hi everyone. I'm delighted to be here today. My name is Elena Zucker, and I'm a consultant and speaker. And I have the honor of being with um, a very prominent and well-known person who is an expert on all things LinkedIn. And his name is Adam Houlihan. Some of you watching this are very familiar with Adam and his very generous sharing about his vast knowledge of LinkedIn. And so let me just give you a little background because really it's the essence of why LinkedIn is such a presence in everybody's life now. So my main topic is influence. I'm an author. The topic of my speeches and books is The Secrets of Influence. More about that later. So I saw Adam offering something. It was in my feed, and he was offering a free webinar about LinkedIn, which I always was eager to know more about. And also I saw that he was giving away a very hefty book called Influencer. And I thought, well, hey, I never heard of him. And this looks like it's in my territory. I wonder what he teaches about influence. And so that was how I first got to know about Adam. And important, I looked him up and saw that he has over 100,000 followers, because we can now have followers more than the limit on connections on LinkedIn. And so since I have been launching some new things, which I'll get to later, I thought, well, let me learn everything I can and see whether there's some synergy. So I would say this might be almost a year ago. And as I was just saying to Adam, there's nothing like a determined woman. So I made contact. I asked to join his network. I wrote to one of his people, actually Ron Tracy, because I saw that I could not reach Adam directly. And long story short, I then was introduced to a lovely, competent young man named Matt Vieira, who is charged with, among many things, vetting the guests that Adam talks to on these sort of spontaneous shows. So this is being recorded, and you're hearing the recording. This is not live. So let me just give you the bridge, and here's how today's going to go. I will ask you I'm going to ask Adam some questions all about his expertise, that is LinkedIn. He, I believe, is the world's expert on LinkedIn. He just knows a lot and shares a lot. And so I will ask him these questions, and then we'll turn it around, and Adam will ask me some questions about my work, my writing, my theory, etc. So the way that I would describe what bridges our two buckets of expertise, if you will, is that Adam helps you maximize your LinkedIn presence, profile, positioning, presentation. I got all the way to these alliterations, Adam, thought you'd like it, all the way to prominence. And that's the name of his company, Prominence Global. So he wants you to have not only a presence and a lot of followers, but a prominent presence so that you leap off the page, you stand out in LinkedIn. Now, once you get that presence and positioning and prominence, and you get that coveted one-on-one, either on Zoom or video chat right on LinkedIn, or even on, an old-fashioned phone call, where I come in is, what do you do to maximize that valuable meeting that you've gotten with this prospect? And so I teach influence skills. I help you learn your influence profile and how to judge and assess the decision styles of other people. And the result, I believe, is giving you what I like to call portable power or portable personal power. So with that, anything you want to ask me, Adam, about that before I get into my questions to you?
Hey, Helena. No, you've covered it really, really well. And I think what you're talking about, that bridging is really important because why, initially somebody could think if they looked at us, your profile and mine, for example, you might consider us competitors, but we're really not. If whilst we're in the same sphere, what we do is really about getting you to that conversation and where people know, like, and trust you. And what you do, Elena, is that next step afterwards. So really, what we do is very, very complementary in what
Yes,
they do. Same general area of influence, however, in different parts of the process.
exactly. But the important thing is we're talking to the same people.
Correct.
So in a way, it's kind of like a seamless learning progression, if you will.
Once you're at that point, why does that level of influence matter?
Okay, well, for one thing, influence in today's world, I mean, in general, I always explain at the beginning of my talks that, I was kind of ahead of the curve, if you will, because the word influencer is such a big deal now. But what I'm teaching is a set of skills and behaviors. So about how to personally have what I call personal portable power. So with all the changes going on in the world, competition, COVID, all these things, it's a very different situation and more competitive. And so what influence means is having a personal set of skills that you can have with you. It's no longer what you know, your technical expertise, because that can become obsolete, with the next iteration, nor your network, as much as we value networks. I mean, it's happened to me several times when a client division that was getting ready to give me, most of their budget for, starting in October for the following year. And then, they got downsized, removed, and my network of contacts went up in a puff of smoke. So what I say is what people need is something inside you that you can have with you wherever you are.
Interesting. So a little bit, it sounds like that could be almost like manipulation.
Good question.
But can you actually influence someone without it being sort of
Yes.
manipulative?
Somebody was just asking me that because they were talking about someone gave a speech and he kind of used some kind of almost hypnosis on the audience, and 80% of them bought his book or his course, and then 65% of those asked for refunds. So it was a very telling example, right? Because, it's not a sale if it doesn't stick, right? And so I think a lot of people are wary of the word influence because, of course, it sounds like manipulation. So let me straighten that out. We're being bombarded these days, especially with political messages, trying to get us to vote a certain way. On TV, we have ads for solutions to ailments we didn't even know we had. And I love how they say, call your doctor. I don't know about Australia, but here you cannot call a doctor. You just can't reach him, right? But we need to be aware of how we're being influenced. And so that's one of the factors that we teach, to understand what was it about that message that triggered you and caused you to say yes. And that is as important as how you do it. So I like to think of manipulation like this. that it depends on two dimensions. One of them is intent. That is, as the influencer, are my intentions honorable? Do I intend for you to have value, to learn something, to get a benefit from what I'm offering? So that's my intention, is to teach you something. And what's the effect? That's kind of the second intention, intent and effect. And the effect is, do you feel enriched or enlightened after our encounter, or do you feel used or exploited or had? And if I can answer those two things positively, then I would say it's positive influence. And the other thing is that manipulation is covert, right? And influence, positive influence is, influence is a force, it's a power, like electricity, and it can be used for good or ill. And so once you have that power, you have to decide for your own moral compass how you want to use it.
Okay, interesting. So what I'm getting a feeling like there's styles of influence. So like you said, it can be used for good or for ill. So would that be right? Would you say, is that sort of part of what you coach? Is it sort of these positive styles of influence?
Well, they can all be positive. And I'll sort of talk about this. They all go into an array. Most people, and most of your audience, for example, and mine, are probably pretty good influencers, but they are unaware. So it's like the unconscious, the unconscious and the conscious, and you may have come from a sale or had a really good encounter, and you got a yes, but you may not know how or why. And so you're using your default, and if you're good enough, you get a high ratio of that. But it may not be so useful, because if you don't know the specific pieces, the components, then you may not be able to replicate it, right? And similarly, if you have a meeting and you bomb, you may get so gun shy that you never go back there again. But that's wrong, because once you learn a variety of strategies, then you have other things to try. So it's really giving you more possibilities, more ways to try. And so the styles, it's not that mysterious, but basically the theory is, which, I've always built on the shoulders of other thinkers, but I actually came up with this theory myself. And I have a degree in organizational psychology, but not in creating psychological instruments. I had to hire people to do that. But the basic idea was, having been in sales and marketing for so many years in my life, I kind of looked at what are the behaviors that successful people do and don't do. And so I came up with this typology of 6 styles. And I will be happy to send you my mini ebook. It's a condensed version of my book, and it's called Influence: The 7 Big Secrets in 7 Little Minutes.
Nice.
Because that's the attention span these days, right?
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
And in it, there's a link to a questionnaire, which was, as I said, I came up with the basic, let's say, sketch or the basic draft. I had the basic concept, but then I hired these people called psychometric psychologists, and they come up with, all those questionnaires that you get in business or HR gives you. And by the way, the Myers-Briggs, is not scientific. Did you know that?
No, not at all.
It was started by a mother and daughter, and then it took off like fireworks, but they don't have any scientific research. Maybe they do now, but that's just a little gossip factoid. Not that there's anything wrong with it, as Seinfeld would say. But
So, Elena, sorry, keep going.
So people take the original questionnaire had 55 questions. And again, because of attention span and because I didn't want to give away the store in my book, you know, they could, the book is like $20. So the reduced version is 12 questions, but you can pretty much get a snapshot of your profile. Okay. And your profile shows you the distribution because you're self-analyzing, right? It shows you the distribution of your scores over the 6 different styles. And they're quite different from each other. And so I came up with these names. For example, one of them is telling, the analyst style. Okay. And then there's another one called gelling, which is the idealist. So those are 2 examples, and they're really diametrically different, but you may have some of each of those in your profile. So what this does is bring you to your awareness of what your profile is, and the ones that you score highest in, that's your default, but that's just square one, because you have these lazy muscles from the other 5 that are not in your comfort zone. And if you learn them, you would have 5 other doors to go in, so to speak, to learn. Now, so go ahead. Why is it called the 7 Secrets?
Well, I was just about to ask that. You said you mentioned 6, but it's called the 7 Secrets of Influence. So what's the 7th one?
The 7th secret is the uber secret. And it's very, very simple. And most salespeople know, because we're all interested in me, right? The first thing people want to do is take their profile. But that's nice to know at the beginning. But what's more important is, how will you use this as a prism through which to understand more about your customer? So you're not going to meet them and say, hi, nice to meet you. Here's my questionnaire so I can see how to sell to you. But once you learn what these styles are, the cues pop out at you. So that's what I'm saying. And so the 7th secret is influence. I mean, it's not a mathematical formula, but influence equals attentiveness. That's learning and observing the other, plus flexibility. Because why you've been using your default is like lazy in a way. It's just that you didn't know there were other ways, right? And once you learn these other ways, you now have a new vocabulary. And what I say is, it's like getting better radar or 3D glasses. Suddenly you have clues from what somebody says or what they write, the kind of language they use, even in their posts or emails, that give you a clue. It doesn't mean that you have a total analysis, but it gets you ahead of the game because you have some clues. And the more you practice the ones that you don't know, you get better at it. So basically that's the 7th secret.
Nice. And so that mini book, is that what you're going to share with everyone? Like you're going to put a
link to that? I'm going to share it with you. But I do have a freebie to give people. I don't know how many more questions you have.
No, let's. I think that's a good place to end it. So yeah, I think what everyone's going to want to know is what's the little freebie.
Okay, so I'm going to. The freebie is a book, a booklet, which you'll like, because it was a group of surveys that I did over the course of some months with members of LinkedIn when polls were very popular. So I'm happy if you want to offer it to your people. So it's called, I'm going to share my screen for a moment, if I may.
Sure.
And I'll show you what this looks like. Okay, So this is the first slide, if you will. And what it is this is just a bunch of my books, which are all available on Amazon. And then the next slide that I'll put it in the post, because there's not an audience today, so there's no chat, but I'd be happy if you used this link, Adam. So what this is, and what I've been talking about, is my live course, which has been a one-day course, mostly in corporate America. And, we didn't do our bios, but we will, or it's in our profile. But, I've worked with some of the largest multinationals, American Express, IBM, AT&T. And so it is a licensed course for people to take within the company. But during COVID, a sort of silver lining was that I teamed up with a group, a very talented group of what's called educational technologists, and created an e-learning version of my course. So it's in very advanced adult learning processes, and it's completely self-paced, but it can also be a hybrid, which means that people do the self-paced learning of a few of the modules. And then we have a forum or a clinic or a webinar where I take questions and things like that. Okay, so I wanted to mention that. That's a little promo. And here is the freebie. So it's called Influence Defined, and it's a booklet. And as I said, it is gleaned from the responses of LinkedIn members of what they think about influence. So I review all the myths that are out there about influence, all the, falsehoods and misinformation. And then I do kind of the big reveal, what influence is. Okay, so that is available for free. It's an e-booklet, and it's available at this link. Okay, so if you need this image, I can give it to you.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, and then finally, I'm very glad if anybody is unclear about anything we've said, you can email me directly. I'm in Montreal, Canada. You can look at my contact info on my LinkedIn profile, or this is my phone number, and try to be aware of time zones. And that's it. So I'll stop sharing now. Okay, so I know I went through that very quickly, but I think you have the links.
That's it. Fantastic. All right, this has been very enlightening, and I think very beneficial for anyone that's going to
I hope so. I hope so, because I think we both really, teach from the heart. I mean, people don't make millions doing this, teaching, doing a lot of giving stuff away for free. And, I feel a kindred spirit that, you come from that place as well. And in terms of competition, there's enough for everybody. It's a big world. You're in Australia, I'm here. We both sell or market globally, and, there's plenty out there. Right. So I want to thank you so much for your time. And if you would stay on, Adam, for a moment, I wanted to ask you one thing before we get off, but I want to stop the recording unless you have some closing remarks.
No, just how much I enjoyed this session, and I hope people get lots of value from it.
I do too. And lovely to meet you. And I have never had a chance to really say this. Do people really say good day, mate?
Not really, to be honest.
Not really.
It's a lot of, you see it in the movies and things.
That's
a little bit. Well, I'm not saying it doesn't. People don't say it, but it isn't quite common to refer to someone as a mate. But yeah, not so much.
Okay, well, lovely. Thank you for clearing up that myth. Always good to have the right information. All right, I'm going to stop recording. Okay.